Hi, everyone. The meeting of the January 10th, 2022 WVU Faculty Senate meeting will come to order. Happy first day of classes. In typical Morgantown fashion, there's a wintry mix outside. It would just not be the same if we didn't have some sort of weather condition on the first day of classes, whether it be fall or be spring. So our first order of business is the approval of the minutes from our December 6th meeting. The December 6th meeting minutes have been distributed as an annex to your agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing and seeing none, those minutes have been approved. There will be an addition to the agenda. Following Provost Reed's report, Rob Alsop will be providing an update on legislative issues. So I'm looking, oh, he's here, I see him. There he is. Hi, President Gee.
Hi, how are you? Sorry, I'm running a minute or two late. I was traveling, so I just got off the plane.
Excellent. I'm glad you're here. So are you ready to present your report, or do you need a minute?
No, I'll be fine. Thank you very much. And actually, my gosh, you've got a lot of bodies here today. I can see people's names, but nothing else. So anyway, it's great to be with all of you. So let me just say a couple of quick things. First of all, let me note that I appreciated both the support that we received from the Faculty Senate, but also the comments and commentary that we had at the last meeting. I think that everyone should know that the Provost and I are committed to both learning from what we heard, to doing better what we do, to be robust and thoughtful leaders, and to make certain that we are listening very carefully. And we've already started conversations with the faculty leadership, with some of our other colleagues, is to make certain that we understand and more clearly articulate what we are doing and how we're doing it. This is a challenging time for all of us, and I want you to know, though, that I do not take lightly any conversations that we have with our faculty colleagues. In fact, Dr. Critchlow and I had a terrific conversation in my office, which was very helpful, and I appreciated his time and the opportunity we had to talk. So saying all of that, this is a week. I'm off tomorrow to Charleston because this is the legislative session, and as you know, each year the 60 days is a challenge. It's a challenge for our legislative colleagues. It's a challenge for the state. It's a challenge for the university. The governor will give his State of the State address on Wednesday at the opening of the regular legislative session. As you know, the state is in a financially very strong position, which is, of course, very good news to the university, even though a modest amount of our money does come from the state, around slightly over 10%. And nonetheless, if we had to have that amount of money, about $150 million, our budget with our academic medical centers is about 5.1, 5.2, $5.3 billion. So you can see that is not a lot of money, but it is a great deal of important money, because of the fact that if we had to have an endowment that would throw off $150 to $200 million, it would have to be, the size of Harvard's, and we don't have that endowment. We have a growing endowment, but not that size. So the legislative session is important. Our budget is important focus for us, and we in a very good position this year, given the surpluses and our work at relationship building, to receive positive support from the legislature. As a special priority, I might just note, we always try to put forth some clear-cut priorities. One of our special priorities is working with the legislature is to invest in a significant infrastructure improvement at Jackson's Mill. For those of you who have not seen Jackson's Mill, it is really sort of mecca for 4-H. It's not only for 4-H in this state, but it's one of the most important symbolic and social centers for for 4-H and for the land grant universities in this country. And it's used heavily. It's a very important component of who we are as a university, very important component of our extension services. So we are looking to invest rather heavily in Jackson's Mill because we intend on using it even more aggressively in the next several years. As you know, and I just raise this again, campus carry has been an issue in past sessions, but we do not, I'm knocking on wood, expect it to come up this year. If it does, however, we are prepared to advocate for keeping our campuses safe, and we'll do so beyond. So the legislative session is going to be robust to set of discussions regarding a number of issues, all of which the university is very heavily engaged in, because on the economic development side, obviously, with advance, with the attraction of business and industry, with our new Milan facility, which will soon be part of the university, we have so many things to look forward to. Beyond the legislative session, we're looking forward to a very safe and a productive semester. Our website, our Return to Campus website, has really robust information about our health and safety protocols. Now, of course, I encourage every faculty, staff, and student to review the information, and please, please, please get your COVID vaccine boosters and verify your status on the Return to Campus site. That's very important. Details of how you verify your status in our system will be shared this week. So watch Mountaineer News. But it's I really do believe, and I've talked to our health experts and have read a great deal about this. I do believe that we are moving, even though this is a very broad cycle that we're in right now with the Omicron variant. I do believe that we're moving to an endemic, and we're just going to have to learn how to dance with this thing. Our intent is to be very cognizant of everyone's health and safety, but at the same time to make sure that we continue to move forward as an institution. So together we can really enjoy, I think, a vibrant educational and academic experience in 2022. Ashley, those are my comments. If I can answer any questions, I'm always ready for those.
Great. Any questions for President Gee? Marianne, are you able to unmute? Great.
Yes, I just had a quick question. Do we know when the Star Res, the housing site's going to be available for us to actually log those boosters? Because it's still saying it's unavailable.
Oh, Marianne, do you know that answer?
Yeah, you know what, Marianne, the other Marianne, if you hang on a little bit, we're going to have all things COVID coming up. So hopefully we'll be able to answer all your questions.
I think.
Any other questions?
Thank you, President Gee. We will move on to Provost Reed. Joseph Hodge, I do see the question about the proposed pay raise from Governor Justice. I believe that Rob Alsop
Actually, I
is
don't see
going to
anything
address
else,
that.
okay?
Okay, Provost Reed, are you ready?
Great. Yeah, sure I am. Thanks, Ashley. Good afternoon, everybody, and Happy New Year, and welcome back from the break. I hope you all managed a little time for relaxation. I know it's a very quick turnaround from the fall semester to spring. I do want to spend some time talking about the start of the semester under the shadow of COVID. This is our third spring semester when we are dealing with COVID, unfortunately. And we have the new Omicron variant as yet another exciting variable in our battle against COVID. What I just want to say briefly is that there was a university-wide message. It went out on Tuesday that explained our campus protocols in terms of safety. And then I sent an email out on Friday regarding classroom protocols and best practices. I won't go into great length about what was said in those previous communications, except for I just want to say again, that we are urging flexibility in terms of dealing with student absences, because we know we're going to have a lot of them. But at the same time, we need to be flexible with our faculty and instructors. And so what I said in my email is that, we are sort of empowering faculty with the permission of their chairs to change modality of instruction for short-term timeframes, because of COVID-related issues, absenteeisms, the faculty member himself or herself is sick or has to quarantine with a child. So anyway, the main key is flexibility, flexibility, flexibility. For more details on where we are today with COVID, kind of what we're seeing from a health perspective, I'm asking Jeff Coben to step in and provide some details. And then Rob Alsop will talk a little bit more about our protocols in terms of masking and testing and vaccines. So Jeff, I'm going to hand it over to you first.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay? So thumbs up, somebody. Okay, great. So as you all know, we are in the middle of another surge as it relates to COVID-19 across the nation and across the state. We have been closely following a number of models for when and how this surge is predicted to move across the nation and across West Virginia. Approximately 2 weeks ago, the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation model was predicting that new cases of COVID-19 with the surge would peak in West Virginia towards the end of January, beginning of February. Most recently, that has been updated. As of today, the projections are that COVID cases may in fact peak earlier than originally predicted. And the current model projects a peak between 7 to 10 days from now for the state of West Virginia. Whether or not that actually occurs and how that would look in particular in Morgantown and how it would look at WVU are both still to be determined. It's uncertain, but what we can say is based upon the modeling and what has occurred in other locations, we are hopeful that this most recent surge, which is driven by Omicron, will be quick, rapid, and will rapidly decrease. We can also say with some certainty that the increase in cases that we are seeing now are in fact associated with Omicron. The most recent genomic sequencing done for the state of West Virginia was done on January 7th. At that time, there were 378 samples that were tested, and statewide, 74% of those were Omicron. But in Morgantown and the Mon County area, 89% of them were in fact Omicron. So we can say that the surge that we're seeing does seem to be driven primarily by Omicron. And as I mentioned previously, we're hopeful that that will be a quick and rapid burn, if you will, over the course of these next couple of weeks. In terms of our current numbers, just to let people know the most up-to-date information as of 5 minutes ago, there were a total of 247 individuals affiliated with the university who are active in isolation, actively positive cases, including 4 faculty members, and that's based upon reports into our care services team. Just to give you some perspective on what we're seeing now compared to what we saw most recently last semester. When we looked at our numbers for all of last semester, beginning on August 1st, 2021, and extending through until December 17th of 2021, we saw a total of 1,224 positive cases. Since December 18th until today, we are now up to a total of 725 cases. So you can see that this most recent surge has been substantial and has been rapid. I would also want to point out that in the fall last semester, when the predominant variants were Delta and other variants, of the 1,224 positive cases, we had a total of 6 individuals who were hospitalized amongst WVU employees and students. Of those 6, 3 were unvaccinated. There was one individual who was vaccinated but was immune compromised due to a kidney transplant, and another individual who was vaccinated but was 33 weeks pregnant at the time when she became COVID positive and was hospitalized for observation. So again, a relatively small number of hospitalizations, predominantly among unvaccinated individuals last semester. Again, for comparison, since our break, since December 18th, with the 725 positive cases, we've had no reports of any hospitalizations during this time frame up until and through a few minutes ago. So with all of that, I think that what our team is expecting, as Provost Reed alluded to, is that we will should anticipate a significant number of cases occurring over the course of these next several weeks. Fortunately, with Omicron being the predominant variant and our population being fairly well covered through either vaccination status or previous experience with COVID, we hope that these will be mild illnesses, as they have been so far, but they will result in absenteeism, both among students and employees for periods of time. And I think the best opportunities that we have to continue to address this through this next month is updating all vaccine status to be as up to date as possible through vaccinations and through boosters. Consistent mask wearing amongst all of our employees and students. As the provost mentioned, modifying our plans, instructional plans, based upon the flexibilities that are available to us through the provost's office. So I think I will stop at that point and see, Mary Ann, if there's anything else you'd like me to cover.
I think that's great, Jeff. Let's have Rob speak, and then if there are any questions, we can take it at that time around COVID. Thanks. Rob?
Very good. Thank you, Mary Ann. Thanks, Jeff. So I'll just hit the highlights of where we are and walk through a little bit of the decision making for the spring semester and some of the rules we have them just as a highlight. So, our goal as we started the spring, much like before, was to have as much in-person instruction and activities on campus as we could safely do so. In speaking with Jeff and our public health team, there were 2 basic tenets that were true for the fall that remain true in the spring. Having up-to-date vaccinations, and I'll talk about that term, up-to-date vaccinations and wearing a mask, provides significant protection against catching COVID-19 and also prevent you from getting, provide significant protection against serious illness if you do happen to catch it. Those two basic fundamentals remain true. Thankfully, neither Delta nor Omicron have worked their way around the vaccines, and they are doing what they were supposed to do, which is prevent the spread of the disease and prevent serious illness. We also know a lot more about the virus at this point in time than we have in the past, as well as new medications to treat COVID-19 with recent therapeutics approved by the FDA and more in the pipeline. Armed with this goal, the information from our public health experts, we charted a course to bring everybody back for the spring, but also decided, given the increased contagiousness of Omicron and the fact that Delta resurfaced after the break in larger portions than it did beforehand, we decided to require masks to be worn everywhere indoors. We'll revisit that at the end of February as to whether we need to make adjustments, or excuse me, at the beginning of February, as to whether we need to make adjustments from that perspective. We continue to follow CDC guidelines for quarantine and isolation. And as you may be aware, the CDC has recently updated guidelines for both, and will continue to follow them. For quarantining, if you are up to date from a vaccination standpoint, then while you're required to wear a mask for a period of time, you are no longer required to quarantine. Again, that's only for those that are up to date from a vaccination status. If you catch COVID-19, moving forward, you are required to isolate for a period of time. If you are asymptomatic, then that period of time is 5 days, or if you continue to improve. But if you continue to show symptoms, then you need to remain isolated for a longer period of time, up to that 10 days moving forward. Again, those CDC guidelines are on our website, and we will continue to follow them. As I mentioned previously, we did not only recommend or require masks for everywhere indoors, but we are recommending that everyone wear a KN95 mask. Our public health experts have advised us that the KN95 masks are important to wear given the extra contagious nature of the Omicron variant, and that KN95 masks are preferred over cloth masks at this time. We are handing out those masks. They will be available in all of our buildings. We have 35,000 of them on site and another 60,000 KN95s that should be here later this week, and will continue through the semester, much like we did with the paper surgical masks before, have a steady supply of KN95 masks as we move forward. Our testing strategy has changed for this semester with a little bit of a different approach. As you may recall, last semester, we required every unvaccinated person to provide a negative test at the beginning of the semester. This time, what we're doing is, and thanks to DHHR, we are providing one at-home antigen test to every student and employee that wants to take one at the first sign of symptoms. We encourage you to find one of our locations and to get one of those tests, take them home, and then if you wake up and show any symptoms, in addition to staying home and taking care of yourself and protecting others, take advantage of this antigen test. We are also asking you to let us know if you've been boosted. We'll be focusing on whether our students and employees are up to date relating to their vaccination status. I know, Marianne, you had asked the question as to when you'll be able to provide that information, and the answer is tomorrow. The STAR Res system should be up and running. We'll be communicating in the morning that you can provide us a boosted status. Now, as it relates to what we will communicate to you, we do intend, starting in February, once we can gather this information as to who's been boosted, to let you know how many people and a percentage on our campus are up to date in their vaccination status. There's been some talk about whether someone is fully vaccinated, and we're going to move away from that terminology. So, to be considered up to date with your COVID-19 vaccinations, you'll have either had to have had 2 shots of Pfizer and Moderna, or 1 of Johnson & Johnson, and have been less than 5 months out from those shots to where you're not eligible for a booster. So therefore, you'll be fully up to date and not eligible to get any more shots. Or if you've had the 2 or 1, depending on whether it's Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson, and you're more than 5 months out, you will have had to have received a Moderna or Pfizer booster to be considered up to date with your COVID-19 vaccines. And again, folks will have, well, they will be able to do it anytime. We're going to ask folks as soon as they can and through January to update their vaccination status. And then we'll be reporting to campus on how many of those are, again, up to date from their vaccination status at that point. Finally, we will have testing opportunities working with the Mon County Health Department throughout the semester at our rec center as we continue to test, and we will have pop-up vaccination sites to get either the booster or the initial with Pfizer and Moderna as the semester goes on. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like me to touch upon, Mary Ann, but happy to answer any questions.
Let's open it up for questions. And folks, feel free to ask Jeff, Rob, or me questions about the return to campus and the start to the spring semester. Please ask your questions. Dave's got his hand up, Dave Hauser.
Sure. Hopefully a quick question. My understanding is that WVU following CDC guidelines is saying that if you get a positive test, you have to quarantine for 5 days past kind of when your symptoms subside. And if you're asymptomatic, then that's basically 5 days. Mon County Health is telling everyone to quarantine for 10 days after a positive test. So which should I do if I get a positive test?
So we are following, Jeff, jump in. We are following the CDC and the state guidelines. We have campuses in 4 different counties. And so we've decided to follow from that perspective. So for purposes of returning to class and participating in university events, if you follow those CDC guidelines, you are permitted to do so. And we feel it is safe for you to do so at this point in time. Jeff, you want to jump in?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Just to add to that, anyone who is positive, student or employee, will receive direct communication from the university, which indicates the release date of their isolation. We do recognize that there are some discrepancies with the recommendations from the Mon County Health Department. But as Rob described, we are abiding both by CDC and the West Virginia State Bureau for Public Health's recommendations. And given that we have our campuses in multiple counties, we felt it was important for consistency purposes to just follow one set of guidelines.
Looks like Mary Ann Downs. Mary Ann, do you want to ask your question?
Sure. I was just wondering, because we've had a lot of disruptions over the past with the university having no classes, just announcing no classes, even if faculty are prepared to deliver their course material online or deliver in a hybrid format, which I know sometimes that's not going to work and it won't work consistently for every class. But at times that we have been prepared for that, the university said all classes canceled, and then there's not necessarily time to make up that missing class. Like the one I have this semester is a 1 credit once a week. So it's really hard to try to get that missing material in. So I was hoping that we might have less of that.
Mary Ann, I don't anticipate we'll have any cancellations. I mean, we're providing flexibility in how to achieve the outcomes of your course. We also anticipate, I think that you heard from Dr. Coben, that this is going to be relatively short-lived. This period in which we have these intense spike in cases is supposed to be relatively short-lived. But at this point, you have flexibility in how you teach the class. And so there would be no reason to cancel classes.
Well, not just COVID related, but weather related.
Oh, weather related. Well, I think that there are different schools of thought. Some people and some students feel like they really could use that day. If we have a snow day, we have a snow day. And there are other people who feel that they would prefer that we continue class, but in an online mode. I don't think that we've come to any conclusion so far, except for I think we may lean on the side of allowing people to have real snow days unless there's a lot of them. Okay.
But that
Kind of
doesn't,
getting back to our regular practice. That's our regular practice as an institution. Not everybody, Mary Ann, is maybe equipped to do that. So that's where we are right now. Okay. All right. Let's see, we've got another question. Let's see. Many of us are parents with children in the Mon County schools. Kimberly, yes. I mean, that's the point of saying that faculty have flexibility in switching to alternative modes of instruction if either there are tremendous number of absences in the class that make it impossible to teach in person, or that faculty member himself or herself has gotten COVID, or if that faculty member needs to quarantine or stay with a child who's been quarantined at home. So again, these are temporary switches in modalities. They need to be approved by the chair, but yes, faculty have that flexibility. Hope that answers your question. Okay, are there any more questions? You're welcome. Any more questions at all about COVID? Okay, all right, well, let me wrap up my report then. I just want to talk a little bit. Thank you also to Jeff Coben and Rob Alsop for providing that additional clarification on what to expect. I want to just talk very briefly about academic transformation. We will continue to focus on academic transformation this semester. We are entering in our second year of this process. Some very short updates. We are wrapping up our undergraduate and terminal master's degree portfolio review process by reviewing the portfolio in the Statler College. We did not look at the programs in Statler because they were undergoing accreditation review in the fall. But now we are looking at programs. We've identified some programs of concern, and we are working with the colleges in gathering additional information. At any rate, so we are now currently working and will be working with the Statler College to solicit additional information in which will allow us to make preliminary recommendations about their programs of concern. And we will be sharing that information once we've made our preliminary recommendations. At this point, we don't have preliminary recommendations, but when we do, we will share them. I will say, and I think this is very important for people to know, that we have actually removed the other programs of concern from our academic transformation website upon request from those units who had programs that were of concern that we had recommended for continuance, but with further action. And we did so because those units requested that we remove them from the site so as not to impact their ability to recruit students and meet the expectations needed to secure their programs for the future. So I just want to tell you that we're not being untransparent, but we did that upon request from those units to help them be successful. We will be announcing our priorities for year 2, the week of January 24th. I will tell you that in general, there'll be a lot of opportunity for faculty input and feedback. We are going to be tackling a couple of complex challenges that are going to require input from a variety of constituency groups and particularly faculty. We are going to be hosting a series of campus conversations around academic transformation throughout the spring. And once we get through January, I hope we can do them in person so that we can have actual interaction. I know some of you are frustrated by the format of campus conversations, but the reality is when we do them, we have to filter comments because to avoid Zoom bombing, and there's no way around that. So hopefully we'll be able to do those in person, and then you can come and have your questions answered and we can have a real dialogue around that. And then we will be soliciting questions, ideas, and suggestions via our academic transformation email. We're going to be pushing that out again. So again, lots of opportunity for input. We have also identified several programs of opportunity that we think can have immediate results. And we are currently working with the deans and the chairs on seeing what will be needed to either grow those programs or create new programs. And we will be sharing that as well on the website. And I'll tell you, everybody's pretty excited about that. And that is my report.
Any questions for Provost Reed? Great. Thank you, Provost Reed. We'll move on to our report from Rob Alsop regarding legislative issues.
So President Gee mentioned this at the beginning, but I will put a little bit of a finer point on it. So had a really good month of December of 2021 with the revenues exceeding estimates by $124 million. And so today, general revenues have exceeded their estimates by $400 million, and they are expecting that to grow by the end of the year. Those surpluses certainly bode well for the next year. We have not heard anything about any type of budget reductions anywhere around as it relates to state government, and in particular in conjunction with the ARPA money that still remains untapped, although they're working through some appropriations from those monies. There should be sufficient revenues to meet expenditures for the next couple of years, which is welcome news. One of the things that I wanted to spend a little bit of time on today was the proposed funding formula that's moving forward. And so just as a little bit of background, for the past decade or so, legislative leaders on and off have been talking about a funding formula for their appropriations. As President Gee mentioned, we get a certain portion of our about $1.1 billion of our budget from the state. They appropriate around $150 million a year to WVU. So it's around 16% of our revenues come from the state through the appropriation process of general revenues, general tax dollars, and lottery monies. For the past many years, the way that appropriation is done is whatever happened last year, plus or minus whatever the governor wants to propose and whatever you can sort of fight for. There was no methodology at the state level to look at graduation or any other metrics as it relates to funding higher education. It was sort of last year plus or minus. 2017 and 18, as some of you may recall, the Higher Education Policy Commission proposed a model that was met with significant opposition. It was largely a model that would have taken money from WVU and spread it to some money from WVU and spread it to other schools. We objected, and that model did not pass. However, the legislature did come up with $12 million worth of additional base funding for schools as equity adjustments. WVU received $1 million increase to our base budget as part of that effort. Nonetheless, moving from 2019, legislative leaders again indicated they wanted to do a funding model, and they asked the Policy Commission to develop a proposal. And the commission and the schools have been working on that goal for some time, albeit with a COVID pause in the middle. So we're now working on, and I believe the legislature will be poised to pass a funding model that's based in large part on what has been in place for a couple of decades in Tennessee. So going forward each year, the Higher Education Policy Commission will look at 3 years of data from each school. And if on the overall a school, based on the sort of the rolling 3-year average, that school does better, then the Policy Commission will recommend more appropriations for that school. If the school does worse in those, with respect to that data and the new 3-year rolling average, then the Policy Commission would recommend less of an appropriation. Now, the legislature could still do more or less, but it's a baseline recommendation for a rational method for funding higher education. So there are a number of metrics that the Policy Commission and the schools have been focusing on. So students accumulating 30 credit, 60 credit, and 90 credit hours. That's during a particular year. Did the student pass that threshold while a student at that school? There's also some workforce outcomes, graduate earning, wages in West Virginia, whether those have increased or decreased, whether graduates are in post-secondary education, some research and development metrics, efficiency, degrees per 100 FTE students. And then finally, there's a group of completion metrics, associate degrees, bachelor degrees, master's, and doctoral degrees. And so based how a school does each year on those metrics with some weighting and scaling factors. So for example, a student passing a 30 credit hour threshold does not get as much credit as a student getting a master's degree. Those are moved through with an overall point factor. The model as it relates to these metrics would be revisited every 5 years going forward. So there are some weights and scales to those models. So for example, if the university takes on a low-income student, and that student, which is typically defined as Pell eligible. So if a Pell eligible student accumulates 30 credit hours, the university would get more credit than a non-Pell eligible that gets 30 credit hours. And so for each of those focus populations, there's a multiplier effect. So if we have an academically underprepared adult student who's also low income, we would get 2.2 points for that student crossing a threshold as opposed to 1 if the student had none of those factors. There's also an on-time completion premium. So if a student graduates in 4 years, we get to multiply that student times 1.2. There are, and then there's a state priority premium for jobs that there are either current vacancies or expected needs over the next 5 years. The model also takes into account inflation, West Virginia wages for the metric I mentioned, and then non-resident students count half in this model. So they don't get the same credit as in-state students, but there is credit in this model for non-resident students as it's currently proposed. The state priority premiums, again, which that's a multiplier of 1.2. So a graduate in a non-state priority program would get a value of 1. A student that's graduates from that priority area would get a multiplier of 1.2. So there's incentive for those types of areas. The Policy Commission and the Department of Commerce has come up with the following categories of programs at the university, at the universities that would be given that multiplier credit of 1.2. These are not finalized, but this is the initial list that the Policy Commission has been working with the Department of Commerce and has circulated to the legislature. And there are many degrees, not only at WVU, but also at Potomac State and at Tech and Beckley that would fall into these categories. So we'll see what is likely to happen as next steps. The legislature will pass a piece of legislation that will state the broad parameters of the funding model, and the Policy Commission will pass a legislative rule that will implement the formula. It's likely that the formula will be implemented over a 3-year period, and 30% of our appropriation ultimately will be at risk every year, and 70% of our appropriation would be considered our base funding that wouldn't be subject to it. There'll be some other guardrails, like your funding can't decrease by more than 5% in any 1 year, and a couple of other mechanisms designed to smooth out funding. Obviously, this is all subject to consideration by the legislature, but at this point, we think there's a significant amount of buy-in in moving towards that funding formula. I'm going to hit just a couple of other points and then happy to take any questions. So I'll share the screen again. So the governor's proposed pay raise. So as you know, the governor announced a 5% pay raise. So there's a couple of caveats to that I just wanted to point out. And some of these all of these we don't know at this point. The governor in his state of the state will provide some additional details as to the pay raise plan, and then his budget bill will provide the rest of those details. Historically, and we don't know this for sure and won't know it until Wednesday, but historically the 5% has not been based on everyone's salary. It's been based on the wages of the average salaried state employee. So if the average state employee salary is approximately $50,000, what the governor has historically done is taken the number of employees who are funded by general revenue and the lottery fund and taken 5% of that 50,000 and said, okay, here's $2,500 for all of those employees. Couple of things as it relates to WVU. Given that our average wages are higher than the average state employee, that would mean we would get less than 5% from the state for each employee. Additionally, only it's around 20% of our employees are actually funded by general revenue and lottery. So not only will we only get the 2,500, but we'll only get it for about a fifth of our employees. So it'll be up to the university to come up with the rest of those dollars to fund a pay raise. We are given flexibility as to the amount of the raise and to how that is determined. Much like we've done in past years, it is likely that the pay raise that we do in conjunction of what the governor provides to us will be based on market and have a merit component to it. And more details for that will follow in the coming weeks as we learn more from the governor moving forward. I will say this, President Gee and our board, and as a leadership team, we know that we need to give a significant, dedicate a significant amount of resources towards a pay raise for later this spring or in conjunction with what the governor has proposed for July 1. And so it is our goal to try to come up with as large of a pool as we reasonably can, knowing that we're not going to get all or even a majority of the money from the state moving forward. Once we know more from what the governor has proposed, we will be able to sit down as a team, figure out what we can afford, and then come up with a plan as to when that'll be effective and how that will be metered out. So more to come in the coming days. A couple of other items of interest. I won't spend too long. President Gee mentioned campus carry. We have heard that the legislature may consider legislation or that there'll be a push to allow guns at the state capitol for those who have a concealed carry permit. We'll see whether that has enough momentum to pass. We have not, as of now, heard any rumblings of an attempt to pass a campus carry legislation this session. We'll know more the first week to 10 days going forward. And we do have legislators in a number of key positions at the legislature who will let us know if there is an effort to make that happen, to pass legislation relating to guns on campus. You will likely see more than a couple of delegates and senators introduce legislation to adopt a campus carry law. That does not mean that it'll come up for a vote at a committee, and we will keep our ears to the ground on that. We also from time to time hear questions about whether there need to be adjustments to tenure policies at the schools and the importance of tenure at our institution. We will keep our ears to the ground on that one. We do think and have been working with a mental health team about changes that need to be made to state law to allow us to be better equipped to deal with mental health challenges. And as always, we are watching what gets proposed as it relates to the $14 million that we receive from the soft drink tax and making sure that that $14 million that's needed for our health science center is there for many years to come to support that. Before I open it up to any questions, actually, I do want to say thank you. I know that the fall semester and in particular, the first 4 to 5 weeks of the spring semester is going to be bumpy. As Marianne indicated, we all want to stress the need for flexibility. If you have a student that tests positive and needs to isolate in the K through 12 system or wherever, we certainly want to encourage flexibility. And we're grateful for the jobs that you as faculty leaders do as we work through COVID. It is no fun, we know, and we're appreciative of all that you do. And with that, I'm happy to take questions if there are any.
Rob, we have a question in the chat. Amy Hessel is asking if you have heard anything about academic censorship.
Yeah, so the only area where we've heard anything relating to academic censorship, and I don't even know I would call it that for this, is there have been discussions about whether institutions of higher education or K through 12 institutions are indoctrinating students that they need to take critical race theory as true. And we have heard discussions about whether there will be attempts at the state legislature to prohibit critical race theory. What we've heard most recently is that there may be legislation that moves through the legislature that would put limitations on critical race theory as it relates to K through 12. And the point that we have made at the legislature is, you know, we are places where we discuss ideas and learn from each other from them. We teach all sorts of theories at school: capitalism, socialism, Marxism, you name it. And so when you're talking about whether you think someone's indoctrinating a third grader versus whether a faculty member is discussing in a survey course or in an upper level course key theories about our society, you're talking about two different things. And so we've indicated to the legislative leadership that, one, we're not indoctrinating our students that they have to think in any one particular way, but that we're about discussing ideas to make ourselves better people. And I think that's resonated on that particular topic. That's not to say that there won't be something on critical race theory that passes that we have to watch for, but that's the latest that we've heard from the legislature on that topic.
It looks like Assad Davari has his hand raised.
Thanks, Assad Dawari from Berkeley campus. The funding model that is going to be developed is it for WVU system or on main campus and other campuses, they will have their own funding model? Thanks.
Sure. So good question. The funding model will be for all of the four-year. There's actually a model for two-year schools and there's a model for four-year schools. WVU, Beckley, and Potomac State will be in the four-year baccalaureate model. There is credit in the model for associate degrees, which, as many of you may know, we do provide at Potomac State. So both WVU Beckley and WVU Kaiser will be in the model and part of WVU's overall part of it going forward. So it will be considered as part of one.
So it will be one funding model for all the WVU system.
Yes.
Thanks.
You bet.
Dave has his hand raised. Dave Hauser.
Yeah, Rob, just a quick question. Part of the part of the governor's pay raise proposal was a one-time 2.5% inflation fighting thing. Are you wrapping everything together when you sort of talk about what WVU is going to do, or is that also going to make its way through the pipeline independently, or what can you say about that?
Yeah, I apologize. I should have mentioned that, and I'll hit another topic. I saw a question in the chat room. So it is unclear whether the 2.5% bonus will work its way through the legislature. There is some consternation about whether that will move through. The governor's office, at least we had heard, was talking about using CARES money for that. And so we don't know whether that was CARES money for the same ratio as others, or whether it was CARES money for all, including all WVU employees. So we don't know enough yet about that 2.5% bonus. We should know more in the coming days, and that will be part of our overall calculation as to how we move forward. You know, it'd be great if it's all funded by CARES money and then it comes into us as 2.5%. I think what we'll have to do is to sit down and say, okay, if we're only getting 15% of the 2.5 and we're only getting 20% of the 5% base, how do we make this all work? And we'll know more on that particular piece. So more to come as we learn more details on that one. There was also a question about whether we would do salaries based on each individual salary. So let me be clear, the way the governor we believe that the way the governor will do it is to do a simple calculation based on the average employee salary and then provide that much money to each agency to provide. And most state agencies will provide an across the board $2,500 regardless of that person's salary. We have not done that, and we will likely not do that in the future. So we'll look at an individual salary look at where they are as it relates to market, where they've done on their performance evaluations, and then supervisors will have an opportunity to provide a pay raise to that individual. And usually it is based on a percentage of that individual's salary. So my example of the $2,500 from the governor's office was really to talk about how much funding that he will provide to us, and not necessarily what we will do as an institution. We will do something usually based on how, as a percentage of how much you make, as to how much you'll get.
Rob, we have time for one more question, and it's in the chat. In the list of programs the state prioritizes, we don't see civil environmental engineering. Construction management is mentioned, but neither we nor Marshall have that program. Chemical and biomedical engineering and mechanical engineering, we have aerospace. Any insight?
Yeah, so the Department of Commerce and the Policy Commission worked with a consultant to come up with the programs where they thought there were either a lot of existing vacancies or likely to be vacancies within the next 5 years, and came up with a number of programs. They've circulated those to the schools to ask for input on those. And we are in the process of working through that. And so what I'll say is that was the lens through which the state came. We may argue that civil and environmental is an area where there are a number of there's vacancies where those need to be added in, and the Policy Commission can take that feedback and move as it sees fit. I do think we have construction management at Beckley, but I may be wrong about that. But it was simply a calculation by the state as to which degree programs they wanted to incentivize.
Great. Thank you, Rob. We appreciate your time and sharing about the legislative updates.
You got it.
All right, next on our agenda is a presentation from Allison Hayes. She's the care team manager. I've asked her to come to discuss student absences, the care team, and communication between the care team and faculty. Allison, I think you have rights to share.
Just make sure this works. Can everybody see and hear?
Yes. You may want to make your screen. There you go. Perfect. Thanks.
And then Senior Associate Dean Kim Mosby should be here too.
I'm here, but I'm under your name.
Perfect. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so we're going to tag team this very brief presentation. We'll leave questions here at the end. I know that there's been a lot of content today, so we'll try to move quickly. So I'm Allison Hayes. I'm the care team case manager. And so first, just wanted to start out with some basics. We're a behavioral intervention team. These are teams that really started after Virginia Tech shooting. And so having a more concerted and collaborative interventions for our students that are prevention based. So some of our purpose areas include increasing those collaborations so that we can provide that for our students. And then ideally reducing the threats to safety and well-being, not only of our students, but to our larger WVU community. Our scope, identifying. So we are a team that goes based off referrals. So we rely heavily on our WVU community members to let us know about folks that we should be looking out for and helping. We do an assessment through a standardized risk rubric, and then provide interventions based on the behavior of concern that's provided to us. And the idea is to prevent escalation of those concerns. Again, prevention in mind, trying to stop things before they get much more difficult or big for a student to manage. And then also just accessing all the supports that are available to students here on campus and within the community so that they can be as successful during their time here as possible. So there are just a few misconceptions I would love to clear up just because we've got this audience here. The first is that we're not an emergency service. We'll go through our team membership here in just a few seconds and you'll see we're quite small and nimble. And so we don't have those resources to be an emergency service, although we do have some great colleagues here on campus that can provide those immediate interventions. We're also not a punitive body. We're more of like a consultation body. When we're involved, also, it's really important to know that that does not absolve other units from their functional duties. A big misconception we hear a lot, we work very closely with the counseling center, but we are not housed within the counseling center or a part of it. We're a part of campus and community life in Moore Hall, which is the picture behind me here today, just as a reminder. And so one thing we're seeing a lot with care reports lately is folks putting in care reports saying this student wants to go to counseling. And so in fact, putting in a care report and adding kind of that extra step or cold call for me can be quite off-putting and really delay that student getting help. So if a student is interested in counseling, you can do that referral directly. It doesn't need to come through the care team for that connection to be made. And then lastly, CARE does not have an S at the end. The CARES Act funding came around a lot of time, around the same time folks became more aware of our team. And so just a quick little point of clarification, there's no S. Now, our university is large, we have tons of resources, and that's amazing. But oftentimes I hear folks say, I don't really know where to go when. So on our website under Campus Community Life, we do have a handout that includes these areas. We kind of broke it down to what kind of resources can be 24/7, what you should do and what would constitute an emergency, getting connected to other services like our Cruise Center or the Title IX hotline, and then just acknowledging that there can be different procedures for things like classroom disruption. That could be something through CARE or Office of Student Conduct or through your academic department policies. So please feel free to check that out. Because again, we have a big audience, I wanted to take the opportunity to remind folks about our Cruise Center and that they have walk-in or drop-in appointments every weekday 9 to 5. So students can go in without an appointment at any time for a crisis or an urgent moment. So some examples of that are listed there on the left-hand side. Anything, if someone says they have thoughts of suicide, they're having like significant daily impairment, they're reporting to you a recent death or assault. That is a situation where a student can go and be seen immediately at the center. And just a reminder too, they provide consultation for staff and faculty as well. So if you have a student situation, you're not quite sure how to handle it or would like some advice or input, you can also call during those 9 to 5 hours as well and receive some support. So on our team, it's housed within Campus and Community Life. Kim is the chair. I'm the case manager. I'm the only dedicated staff member at this time to the team, whereas everyone else is director level. So we've got a lot of collaboration with the Office of Student Conduct, Cruise Center, University Police, Housing Residence Life, Title IX, Provost Office, class. We also have ad hoc members of Legal Counsel, Office of Accessibility Services, and Health Sciences. And we rely really heavily with our partnership with you and our WVU community. To get into our system, you can go to our website, careteam.wvu.edu. Every single page has a button that says, make a care referral here. So I provided just a quick little excerpt of that for an example. Just a reminder that it's not monitored 24/7, and for emergencies, it would be best for you to contact our University Police Department or the Cruise Center, both of which have 24/7 response and ability to assist in emergency situations. At any time, if you're wondering if something should be a care report, if you want some follow-up about a care report, feel free to reach out to us at 5611 or our Vanity account. We'd be happy to assist you and provide any kind of support before, during, after submitting a care referral. And next, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Kim.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you all for having us today. So yeah, once you've made a care referral, I just want to quickly walk you through what happens. So we may follow up with you as a reporter for more information, since you actually have spoken to or met with the student, or the student has emailed you. So don't be surprised if someone from the care team does reach out to you for more information. We rely on you as experts and as the person who knows the student better than we do. So after we've gathered the information from your care report, we get together as a team to figure out what the next steps will be. So we're going to gather information from all areas on campus that may have information. So even if you've submitted a care report, we're going to check to see if there's also a police report attached to this information, or if the student has information in student conduct, if they live in the residence hall, what kind of history they have in the residence hall. So we're getting information from every resource that we have available to us before we sit down and actually staff or talk about the care report that you've submitted. Well, we want you to know that great attention is given to who will best serve the student during any given situation. So when we get together as a team and we meet, well, we discuss the care report, we discuss all the information we have, and then we make a decision as a team what intervention would be the best. And you should know too that for the safety and effectiveness, students may not be made aware of the care team's role in their care. That doesn't happen often, but it does happen. So partnering with you as faculty, as I said before, you're the one who would, we hope, submit the care report if you have noticed signs of distress or any issues with students that you think need to be brought to someone's attention. So since you are the one to first notice the signs of distress and to be informed of the student's challenges due to your relationship with the student, we may ask you to partner with the care team in ways like giving the student information about the Caruth Center, especially, again, we're not 24/7. If you're reading your emails or you're grading your papers and you see something that is alarming, you may email the student or to respond anytime, day or night, and refer them to the Caruth Center. Or you could do the warm handoff to the care team, which would be to submit the care report and know that we will follow up on all those reports. We encourage a connection to the care team, and we want you to have discussions about the academics with the students in order to make the best decisions. We may ask you to have a joint meeting with us if you'd be willing to coordinate with the services, and based on your relationship that you do have with students. And we want to work together as a team to provide the resources and tools so that the student will feel confident in what the next steps will be. So if you have submitted a care report and you would like to follow up with us to determine what happened or how the care team responded, please don't submit another care report. You can either contact us directly, as Allison said, at 293-5611. You can speak to either Allison or me, or you can email us at the care team at mail.wvu.edu. Many times we don't follow back up with faculty once we have actually worked with a student, but it doesn't mean that we haven't done something. We want to be rest assured that we do follow up with every care report. We do reach out to every student, and hopefully we can resolve things so that the students have all the resources that we need. But just rest assured that we do make those referrals as soon as we get the information from you all, and we will follow up. But just to protect student privacy, we don't always follow back up with faculty, and we can't give you details typically on how we did actually resource the student. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about something else, and that is our campus and community life policy regarding student absences. Especially this time of year, and especially with everything that's been going on, we've had a lot of questions about what we do in terms of reaching out to faculty. Most of you know, my name is Kim Mosby, and my name is on most of the notices that go out from Campus Life about student absences. But we do actually have a policy, and it does appear on our Campus Life website. So there are two types of written notifications that we do send to faculty. One is a general notification, and one is what we call a PTI, or a personal traumatic incident letter. So as far as the general notification is concerned, we try to limit it to very specific reasons why students are out, and they include two specific things especially. One would be a death in the nuclear family, and that does include the grandparent, parents, or brothers and sisters. Although sometimes we do make some exceptions in these areas. I spoke to a father today who was very upset, of course, as you can imagine, about the death of his brother. I didn't have the heart to tell him that doesn't fall under what we would typically do it. So we're going to send a notification anyway. So we do allow for some changes there. And the other one is an actual hospital admission, when a student has been admitted to the hospital and doesn't have access to some of maybe their computers or information that they would need for your coursework, then we do those types of notifications too. And just really quickly, I just wanted to mention some of the things that we don't do notifications for, and we do get a lot of requests for this time of year, and that would be like the flu or strep throat or just general illness or chronic illness. We may refer them other places on campus, but those are not things that we would do notifications for. And that does include emergency department visits too, FYI. And then as far as what we call the PTI or personal traumatic incident letter, those are for students who have experienced a disastrous or traumatic event. So we work very closely with Title IX. And so we will send out letters if there's a Title IX situation, but there are other situations that are also considered traumatic. For example, if a student is the victim of an assault, or if a student has witnessed an assault, something like that, a situation that of course rises to a different level and can be very traumatic. Those are the ones that we want you to recognize as something a little bit more, I don't want to say important, but a little bit more high level than a general notification letter. If you have any questions about our student absence policy, as you can see right here at the website is listed below. So you can just log on to the Campus Life website and you can see what other situations that we would not send letters for. And then, as you can see too, there are other places where you can look for information regarding absences that are not related to campus life, and those are listed in the WVU catalog. So some of the resources that we wanted to share with you, of course, the care team, you can always access us directly through our website, Campus and Community Life, Caruth Center for Counseling, the Campus Mental Health WVU.edu website, and mental health training resources.
Kim, did you want to mention funding?
Yeah, before we get to the questions part, I also wanted to briefly mention, because we've had a lot of questions about student emergency funds. This office does administer 2 emergency funds. One is the Betty Boyd Emergency Loan Fund, and the other is the Kenneth and Carolyn Gray Emergency Grant Fund. So both funds are very similar in the qualifications for students. Student has to be in good standing. They can't have any outstanding balances. They can't have had a loan or a grant in the last year. If you have students who have genuine unforeseen emergencies, you can refer them to our office. And we can talk to them about whether or not they qualify for either. But also one of the things that both of the funds do stipulate is that they can't be used for things that students are expected to pay. For example, you can't get a loan or a grant for rent or for books or for tuition, those things that students are expected to already budget for. So these are things that pop up during a semester that students didn't expect to happen. All right, so if you guys have any questions, Alice and I are happy to help to answer.
It looks like Frankie has a question. Frankie Tack.
Yes, hi, Kim, Frankie Tack, College of Education, Human Services. I'm just wondering, I do a few of these every semester. If we submit one that you all consider not appropriate for the care team, would we be notified of that? Sometimes I'm a little iffy and I figure, well, it's better to err on the side of submitting it than not. But if I'm off track,
I agree with you. I think that sometimes it's better just to go ahead and submit it. So I would submit it. If it's something that, we're going to reach out to the student one way or the other. There's not a care report that we don't respond to. So if it's something that we don't typically handle, we'll still reach out to the student. And if it's something that we think that you shouldn't submit, someone will be in contact with you and say, we're going to handle this one, but in the future, this is what we think that you should do.
Okay, good. All right, great. Thank you. And I just want to say I'm so glad for you all's presence on campus, and being in the counseling department, we get in some dicey topics sometimes, and students will sometimes reveal things that they might not reveal elsewhere. And it's really nice to know that in addition to Caruth, we can also, if it's something more current, reach out to you all to make sure they've got a good wraparound plan and it's documented. So I appreciate you all.
Thank you.
There's a comment in the chat, Donna. I want to make sure that this is going to Allison and Kim. Has there been consideration for food production or food security? Was that meant for Allison and Kim?
I believe that was posted when Rob was talking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Apologize. Thanks.
But just
Any
to
other-
build off of that, I would say if students are experiencing basic needs issues, that's a care referral as well. We can help with that.
Great. Any other questions? Allison, Kim, thank you. Oh, Frankie, real quick. We have another
I'm sorry.
presentation.
I just wanted to ask, the form is very geared towards threats of violence, and I get where it came from. I'm wondering if there's been any consideration to maybe making some adjustments to the form. Sometimes I feel like I'm kind of shoehorning those other type of issues into the form.
So we are a behavioral intervention team, bare bones, right? That we are here to ensure safety. And so we do handle very mild, low level concerns all the way up to high threat assessment type of concerns that we're a part of. So we do the gambit. We don't err on the side of send us everything because we don't have enough manpower, if you will, to sort through all of that. And so I think it is a little heavy handed. We are working on polishing and updating our website and our language to be a little more welcoming, because we do have students say, well, I'm not going to kill anybody, but I need some help. And so we are working on updating our website to address that as well. But in practice, we handle everything really low level and all the way up.
Allison, Kim, thank you for your time today and sharing with us. We will share your PowerPoint presentation on the Senate Minute on the website shortly. So if anyone needs to access that, thank you. Next up on our agenda is a presentation from Corey Ferris, Dean of Students. He has been asked to come to discuss initiatives in student life and how faculty can potentially partner with student life in teaching, research, and service. Corey? Lisa, did I miss you too? I'm sorry, are you presenting too? Okay, just making sure.
So hopefully, do you all see full screen or not yet? How's it look?
You're in presentation mode. We can see 2 slides.
You can't see 2 slides. Let's see here. See if I can. How's that?
Perfect.
Okay, very good. All right, thanks. Well, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me. I want to do sort of a quick overview of student life and all the areas that we touch. You hear people talk about 168 hours in a week. And we're working with students when they're outside the classroom. So you've heard from the great team of Kim and Allison and the care team that are part of campus community life. Kim also does and Campus Community Life does some student advocacy work and helping students if they're just trying to navigate the university. We have a student legal services that provides free legal service to students and general guidance. And so we've got an attorney and some legal interns, a couple of attorneys that help support our students. Also part of student life is Office of Student Conduct that manage a couple of different areas. Some of it's behavioral, but also the Office of Academic Integrity is centered out there. So when there's some academic dishonesty or other issues, the folks in the Office of Student Conduct manage that. We have an Office of Student Family Resources. So many of our students do have families and have childcare. We've got a federal grant currently that allows us to pay for childcare for students while they're in classes and doing coursework. We talked, there was sort of that brief question about food insecurity, not only connecting students with the care team, but we also have a rack, which is a food bank that allows students to grab food, including fresh fruits and vegetables and meats and other things 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. When we'll talk about students getting involved, a number of different ways from the Center for Fraternal Values and Leadership, that's also known as Greek Life, Center for Black Culture and Research, student engagement and leadership, again, clubs, organizations, honoraries. Kim's area in the campus and community life also engages students through our commuter student programs. We often think about students in the residence halls having RAs or resident assistants. Well, we've got some commuter assistants in particular that reach out and support students their freshman year, but they continue to stay involved throughout. Again, ways for students to get involved, DA and U92. A new program that we're launching this semester is Project 168. And that is a way for us over the several years that students are with us, 4 years, for us to formally document, which we've not done in the past, students' involvement and engagement at WVU. That's whether they're involved in clubs or organizations, student leadership programs that we have, and as well as we know many of our students have jobs. And so we'll be able to document and help those students to find out some of those things. So as they develop a transcript that's not academic, how do we help them help package a student better? So when they're applying for a job or graduate school or the military, we've got some formal documentation. Students will be able to order a co-curricular transcript once they graduate from WVU. So they'll have their academic transcript, but also a co-curricular transcript. Some of you have gone through coach training, and so certainly appreciate all of you that will be supporting our students if you're participating in that. Again, health and wellness of our students. We've got Adventure West Virginia. You know, that's an outward bound program. Mostly freshman students, incoming first-year students participate that over the summer. But we also have in the past have sophomore programs, veteran-friendly programs, and different ways for students to engage. Campus recreation, if you haven't taken a look at the rec center or the new outdoor recreation facilities that we've done out on the Evansdale campus with sand volleyball courts, new basketball courts, and an outdoor fitness center that came along during COVID, take a look at that on the Evansdale campus. We're doing lots of support with our students who are in some sort of addiction recovery through our collegiate recovery program. Great support in particular for students who are alcohol or drug addiction, but also we're providing support to students from family, if they've got family members or friends who are in recovery. Student health services, great work has been provided by them, especially during COVID, supporting our students. And again, WVU does a wraparound in other areas to make sure our students are healthy and leading healthy lives. Engagement, arts and entertainment, our student union, up all night, Friday and Saturday nights. And we've got refresh program activities that we launched during COVID, and of course, housing and residence life. I do want to take the opportunity to make an offer that we'd love to figure out a way how to better partner with you, our faculty colleagues, as we support our students. We're looking for ways to engage students outside the classroom, and whether that's related to your academic areas that you may teach, or maybe you're doing other things, you enjoy woodworking, or you enjoy some other avocation, and we certainly look for ways to engage you in informal ways. I'm regularly working with Lisa DiBartolomeo, and we hope to very shortly reach out to you, because what we're looking for is how do we engage our students better, and how you can continue to support our students, not just for own student satisfaction, but for student retention and again, that general outreach. But we're gonna have some, we'd like to develop a few faculty focus groups to see how we can develop some stronger partnerships to support our students as they're on their road to success while they're going through WVU. So look for something coming up soon that Lisa and I will be doing some outreach. And with that, I want to make sure we stay on schedule. Ashley, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to support, and to my faculty colleagues. I truly appreciate when you support our students, how you support our students every single day. And especially, I know when Kim Mosby and the care team makes outreach, it's so important, and it does mean difference when you're able to help our students in lots of different ways. And so with that, any questions I might be able to answer, I'm certainly happy to.
Great. Thank you, Corey. We look forward to hearing from you and Lisa about opportunities for us to partner. Thanks for coming. All right, next is my report. On September the 7th, I sent Board of Governors Chairman Tom Jones the vote of the resolution on administration. That is just for an FYI. Just a reminder that there's a WooFoo form on the Faculty Senate site under Contact Us. In this space, you can ask any questions. It will be directed towards us, to us. And then also, if you have any questions for the provost or President Gee for the meeting, we can also distribute those to the president and the provost to be shared at the meeting. On Tuesday, January 11th, we'll be holding coffee and conversation from 10 to 11 a.m. The link was sent out today in the reminder. At our December meeting, I neglected to share that Judy Hamilton, the Faculty Senate Administrator, was retiring on January the 5th. We wish Judy the best, and I apologize for missing that. While we are working, though, to fill her position, there may be a delay in posting on the website. If you do need the video right away for reference purposes, please reach out. So on New Year's Eve, my 13-year-old vaccinated daughter tested positive for COVID. Over the last 10 days, I've received text messages, soup deliveries, drinks, and offers to take my workload from friends and colleagues. Why is this important to share in an information-packed meeting? Because this is what our university community does. We pull together when things are hard, and we take care of each other. As we move through this very uncertain semester, check on your friends, check on your colleagues, check on our students. It might not be COVID, but they might be experiencing some other type of issue. Give grace to one another and to our students, move forward with kindness. As part of this semester, I'm asking that Faculty Senate to reestablish human connection by serving. My friend Eric Murphy is here to share our first service opportunity, and there will be additional opportunities throughout the semester. We're working with the provost team and others to continue this. Eric is the Assistant Director in the Office of Housing and Residence Life and the Assistant Director for the Center for Fraternal Values and Leadership. Eric, are you on? He may have had to drop off. So you have probably, or you will be receiving, I'm not sure, I haven't checked my email during this meeting, an information email about Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. So this is a federal holiday and a national day of service. So on this day of service, we are going to partner with Residence Life, the Center for Fraternal Values and Leadership, Faculty Senate, and Staff Council. We're asking for faculty, staff, and students to donate new gloves, mittens, hats, scarves, and socks by noon on Friday, January the 14th. These items will then be packaged by students on Monday with an inspirational message attached and placed in an area where those in need can easily access them. There will be options for you to drop off at multiple places, and you can look at the email in order to see where we will have those drop-off locations. Are there any questions for me? I see, are we doing something for Judy? No, Judy has left. And we are going to do just a little celebration. If you would like to send a card to her, I can gather those. You can send them to me and I can forward them on to Judy. We do appreciate her service. I see someone has their hand raised, but I'm not sure the name. It just shows an email. Okay, so we will move on. Next, we'll hear from Robin Hissam, the chair of the curriculum committee.
Thank you, Ashley. So today I have two for approval items, Annex 1, which is the new courses report, and Annex 2, which is the course changes report, and also a for information item, which is the new minor in data science. I do have an amendment to make to Annex 1. There was a missubmitted credit hours for finance 250. And that credit hour should be 1 instead of 3. So we've taken care of that, and we will submit that amended annex for the minutes. So I'm happy to take any questions related to curriculum.
Okay, so we will unbundle those and we'll do Annex 1, the amended version first. Are there any questions or points of discussion? Okay, so we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving Annex 1, please raise your hand. Great. Thank you. It looks like 63. Go ahead and lower your hands. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Seeing none, Annex 1 passes. All right, we will now vote on Annex 2. Any questions on Annex 2? All those in favor of passing Annex 2, please raise your hand. Thank you. It looks like 65. Go ahead and lower your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, we have 1. Annex 2 passes. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you. And
Next
your email did go out. I'm sorry, Ashley. That email about Martin Luther King did go out.
Perfect. Thanks for letting me know. Next, we will hear from Amy Welsh, Chair of the General Education Foundation Committee. Okay, it looks like Amy's not with us. Next, we will hear from Marina Galvez Peralta, Chair of the TACO Committee.
Okay, so just as a brief for information, TACO committee met in December and we were discussing about the idea of rebranding and changing some of the tools for validating or evaluating teaching and assessment. So one of the first changes we are doing is rewording the early semester feedback that we were doing, we offered last semester. We are going to be rewarding to early semester course feedback. So there is not going to be that word assessment because the students are not assessing the teachers or the educators. So we just want to gain some feedback. This early semester course feedback is going to be open very soon. We will be sending a notice for those of you who have only short courses of 8 weeks. It will be accessible much earlier, and those ones who have a 15 weeks courses, they will be accessible a little later. We will be sending an email with those dates, and we will encourage everybody for that participation. It's kind of a way of looking at getting student feedback. Again, this is not a penalty, it is voluntarily. The faculty is access just to that information, and it is not going to anybody else. And then it's another way of demonstrating your quality of teaching, how you are listening to your student feedback. So we will encourage again to everybody to sign up because you have to turn in that option. There is a website available where we have all the instructions as well as some videos, and it will be available very soon. And then TACO is still working in the mission of looking at more instruments to measure teaching and not just rely on students' evaluations. So we are still working on that, and we will hopefully update very soon to the whole Senate. I'm happy to address any questions.
Amy, I see you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that, Ashley. I think I didn't get promoted to panelist when I got in, so I forgot to do that step. So for Jeffco, nothing really to report. I do want to make people aware that we are going to begin assessing a subset of our gen ed courses this semester. So we may be reaching out to your faculty who teach gen ed courses for information, so we can begin that assessment process. So we thank you in advance for their cooperation. We'll try to make it as painless as possible.
Thank you, Amy. Next up, we will hear from Anne Marie Hibbert, Chair of the Committee on Committees.
Thanks, Ashley. Anne-Marie Hibbert, Chambers College. I don't have any change to report today, but just a small request. We're getting ready to send out our request for volunteers for committees. And just a reminder, it is in the Senate committees that much of the work gets done. And it's not just senators who we need to serve on these committees. So please, we're asking senators, when you get the survey, please volunteer and ask your colleagues, your constituents to get involved, because that's how we will get most of the work of the Senate done. Thank you.
I'm not sure what happened to Ashley. I think we may have lost her. So Scott, do you mind moving on to the next item on the agenda, please?
Sure. So the next item is the Sustainability Committee report from Andreas Sikorski.
Hi, thank you, Scott. Andreas Sikorski, Everly. I do have a couple of updates concerning the Sustainability Committee's efforts this semester, as well as a preface to the letter which you have in your agenda. At the end of last semester, the university requested input concerning its 10-year strategic initiative, as you know, and the Sustainability Committee wanted to offer its support for the university's commitment to prioritizing sustainability as one of its goals. However, as you can see in our letter that we submitted to the Board of Governors and the Provost's office, we also have offered a few suggestions in relation to these goals. For those of you who may be new to the Faculty Senate, the Sustainability Committee was formed as a subcommittee to provide support and assistance to the WVU Office of Sustainability, especially in regard to WVU's sustainability plans and goals, and to offer recommendations to university leadership in relation to these goals. The first year, by way of background, the committee reviewed sustainability programs at our peer institutions, as well as assessed our own course offerings at WVU that had a sustainability component. In the spring of 2021, WVU was recognized by the American Association for Sustainability in Higher Ed, ASHE, for its sustainability efforts, and we received a Silver Star rating for these efforts. This year, within the next few months, in early March, we will be distributing a Qualtrics survey designed to assess teaching, service, and research in areas of sustainability. And as I said, we hope to get that out. We're working on it now. We met today, and we're putting together questions for that survey, and we hope to release that in March. We also would like to note the efforts of Sean Grushecki, assistant professor in land management in Davis, who will be directing a pilot composting program at the WVU greenhouse, and we'd like to offer support for that. So in response to the university's request for input concerning this 10-year campus initiative and development plan, the Sustainability Committee has outlined several aspirational as well as attainable goals that we believe should be the focus of sustainability efforts across campus. Many of these initiatives are already included in the 10-year initiative, but we'd like to offer a few additional goals. One, to assess the viability of geothermal, solar, and hydropower options to supply power to the Morgantown campus. Two, perform a greenhouse gas inventory annually and to supply 25% of our energy demand from renewable resources generated in West Virginia by 2030 and to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. To support faculty in both teaching and research that has relevance to sustainability issues, and consider building a database of faculty teaching and research that would allow faculty and staff to communicate with each other on sustainability issues. This is one of the things we hope to discern from our survey, so that faculty who may be interested in working together on these initiatives will be identified, and we can liaise with those folks and to sort of put them in contact with each other. We also would like to assist faculty who utilize the campus environment and emphasize sustainability in their teaching through service learning and experiential education. And to the extent possible, we'd like to address food waste by the university through composting initiatives, and when possible, provide locally sourced food to our food services unit. We realize that the institutional needs of a university as large as WVU cannot be met with locally sourced items, locally sourced products, but to the extent possible, we would like to see that happen. And in relation to food waste, I mean, I think that's one of the things we'd like to address with composting initiatives. So those are some of the points that we would like to address that we have in our letter that is up for your review and for your passage. And that concludes my report.
I just wanted to make sure Scott was paying attention, thought I would drop off for a minute, make sure he was ready to jump in at any moment. Looks like it was well taken care of.
Thank you, Ashley.
Hearing no questions, we will go ahead and move to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, go ahead and lower your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, looks like it passes. Thank you. All right, next we'll hear from our faculty representative to state government, Eloise Elliott.
Hi, Ashley. I'm glad you're back. Well, President Gee and Rob Alsop have already given a report on the current state of the legislative session. I actually have a meeting with the ACF this Friday at 1 o'clock. It has been postponed until this Friday. So after that, I'll probably know more about what that group is planning, but everyone can feel free to email me with any questions or concerns about what's going on in the legislature, and I will try to find the answer and get back to you. That's my report. Thank you.
Thanks. Next is the report from the Board of Governors rep, Stan Heilman.
So we had a brief meeting on December 17th. We received an update on graduation rates and retention and student success from Evan Witters in the provost's office. Those numbers are look good, very encouraging. We talked about or approved renovation of the School of Dentistry space, and then approved measures to prepare for a reconfiguration of the Campus Drive / Beechhurst Avenue intersection to make it more of a 90-degree type turn instead of the way it's configured now, amongst other things. And our next meeting is February 18th.
Thank you, Stan. Any questions? All right. Is there any new business? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Parviz, thank you. Do I have a second? Stan, thank you. Have a great first week of classes.